Hello and welcome to the bonus Spheres of Influence. This is a tool that I use very frequently with a lot of my life coaching clients. I wanted to really make sure that y'all had access to this as well. It's such a cool trick. It's for your mind to help ease a lot of different areas of overwhelm and anxiety, especially around big ticket situations or figuring out where you want to go with certain aspects of your life. So if you don't have this sheet, you can download it within the program. And this is what the sheet that I'll be going through today. So if you wanted to download one of these or maybe a couple of them, you're welcome to do so. So this really helps with overwhelm, helping to reduce anxiety around big decisions or decisions that maybe you feel like are just consuming your energy emotionally or time, and figuring out what you can control, what you can influence, and everything else just has to be let go. So I want to walk through the three areas of this actual worksheet to kind of give you an understanding. Sometimes they kind of overlap a little bit, but you internally will know the answer to these questions better than I could ever give them to you. So the first is control. It's everything that you actually have control over with no outside influence or help. So like you here in this zone right now is all that you can control. And I'm gonna give you some examples of this. And ironically, what I see a lot happen with my life coaching clients is that they try to control a lot more than they actually have control over. And that process of trying to control so much that you actually don't have any control over is where the exhaustion starts. And also the anxiety and overwhelm kicks in. Influence is the things that help, things which helps resolve an issue, or you can help influence someone or something through your actions and or behavior. So you could have some influence over, for example, your children's behavior, or you could have some influence over how you present yourself to your boss or to your husband or to your friend. Influence is about your ability to kind of have a little bit of control about how you either present yourself or the things that you do to influence someone's behavior or actions by the things that you do. But ultimately, you're just there to influence them. You can't actually control the final outcome. You're hoping that what you bring forward and how you act and how you present yourself is going to influence them in the way that you'd hope for. But again, you don't actually have full control over their final decision, which brings me into let go. Things that you cannot influence, change, or outthink that outcome. So the thing is that you cannot, at the end of the day, you cannot have full control over someone's choices. You can control yourself. You can try to influence their decisions by the things that you present or the ways that you speak to them or the things that you offer them or the availability that you have or the help that you get. But at the end of the day, so much of what we spend so much time trying to control is actually in the let go category. You can't outthink it. You can't out-influence it. You can't out-control it. You can't out-change it. It's just a let go scenario. So let's go through some examples. The first is maybe you're someone who's a life coach or you're an entrepreneur and you're really worried about attracting, in this example, new coaching clients in a new business. So maybe you're pivoting into an entrepreneurial space or a coaching space, or maybe being a consultant and you're really concerned with, I'm not going to get any clients. So instead of trying to control everything and start panicking about all the things that you don't actually have any control over, let's start going through back down with what do we have control over. This is very helpful for us who are in a state of overwhelm or anxiety or panic, or kind of like, I don't know where to go or what to do, to really bring it back down. So in this situation, you may think, I have control over my mindset. I have control over my thought patterns. I have control over the alignment with my values. The words that I use on my website, the photos that I decide to put online, the images that I decide to create, the development of a business plan is stuff that I can control for my own personal purpose, my own sense of worth. Those are all things that actually you have full control over. Now, the things that you might have influence over are the clients that you attract, the opportunities that come your way, your connections, both in person and online. So how you influence those connections, how you act in those connections to try to help solidify relationships, how I show up in complimentary consults with new clients. You can try to influence people's perception of you online by, again, the things that you choose, the actions that you have, the way that you interact in relationships, etc. you can bring forth who you are to try to influence people's perceptions of you a little bit, and also the relationships and contacts that you forge to try to get to where you want to go. That's what you can have influence on. And everything else is what you get to let go. You get to let go of how many people are actually going to coach with you. You get to let go of people think that you're worth value or not. You get to let go of people think that you're a good coach or not. You get to let go if people think that it was worth their time or not to coach with you. All of that other stuff, all of that kind of stuff that you think is what you can control is absolutely out of your control. You can influence how many people you could potentially attract by using social media strategy, or having ClickFunnels or freebies and growing your email list. All of those things are things that you can control or influence. But at the end of the day, how many people decide to coach with you, and if they think that you are worthy or not, is probably stuff that you can't actually choose to put a lot of control over. So when you're looking at this worksheet, what we try to do often is when we get really overwhelmed or anxious or like in a state of doubt, we tend to put so much energy on it, thinking like, I'm going to have this many clients. They're all going to think I'm worthy. I'm going to mitigate every single risk. I'm going to make sure they all love me, that they all get value for money. And you forget about the things here, and especially here in control, that you need to put your emotional energy more into the control, especially in the influencing intentionally, as opposed to trying to mitigate things that you actually have no idea about. You can try to influence people's perceptions of you, and you can try to influence how social media is uptake against algorithms that are constantly changing. But at the end of the day, you can't spend a huge amount of time worrying about things that you actually have no control and no influence over. And in fact, what I would say to you is release the let go and spend more energy, and actually all of your energy, into control and influence, with at least 50-50, if not even more, on control. When we have our own control of our mindset, of how we want to develop our business for ourselves, when we have control of our values, and when we're adhering to our values, when we have control over the boundaries of what we say yes to and what we say no to, that's a hell of a lot more powerful than spending all of your time flapping around figuring out if someone's going to think that you're worthy or not. Who cares what people think of you at the end of the day? What you think of yourself and how you present yourself is most important. So here's another example of asking for a job promotion at work. So you're super nervous. You want to go in, ask for a pay raise, ask for a promotion, put yourself forward for the managerial role or the new product development manager or something like that. Maybe you want to become a partner. I don't know. But you're nervous because you want to go to your boss and say, I really think that I deserve this promotion, or I think I deserve to be placed in that position, etc. So control, again, is mindset, thought patterns, alignment with values, explorations of your strengths, my own sense of self-worth, and really how I feel and value myself both in the work situation and outside of it. Those are things you can control. The things that you are, and also probably control, would be your preparation for this meeting. That you are prepared, that you know your stuff, that you can really align with what you want to say. The influence would be the way in which I present my reasoning. So how are you going to present that reasoning? How are you going to influence that reasoning? How do you know your boss works and wants to be presented to? What sort of attitude are you going to come into that to help influence a decision by a boss or a panel to hire you or to move you into a different position? The evidence that I use to justify my request. So again, you might have control over that, but you can use that to influence people's decisions, and you can use that to try to help mitigate any sort of ambiguity or need for clarity. The way in which I respond to potential rejection or acceptance. You can influence people's decisions about if you're qualified or not qualified. You can influence people's perceptions of you, of how you take the promotion or not take the promotion, either when you get the promotion or you don't get the promotion. You can influence people's perceptions of you, of how you show up in either of those spaces, and they will remember that. But everything else you have to let go. Are they going to give it to you? Are they not going to give it to you? Are they thinking that you're valuable? Or do they think that they bring values to you? Do they think that the strengths that you presented are valuable to the position? How much are they going to offer you? What's the time frame they're going to give you? All the what ifs. Is this going to impact all of this other aspects of your job? all of those things you really don't have much control over or ultimate influence over. You can influence how they perceive you. You can influence your justification. You can influence your behavior. You can influence their perception of you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, their decision is their decision outside of your control or influence. And so when you're looking at tricky situations like this, when you're really thinking about big situations or you're feeling quite overwhelmed, go back into, okay, so step back, Mish, what is it that I have control over in this situation? Okay, I have control over my thoughts. I have control over how prepared I am. I have control over how I present myself. I have control over the facts of my own knowledge or the way that in which I can present my strengths. I have influence over my attitude in that situation. I have influence over their perceptions of me by the way that I walk into that situation. I have influence over the relationships that I build by the way in which I treat people. All of those things are really important. And when you're in a hyper state, it's very, very important to look at, okay, so if I have control, I immediately take control over one thing, my mindset, my energy, my sense of worth. And the influence are usually action steps. So like things that you can influence, like I want to gain more information. So if I have more information, I can influence my knowledge, or I can influence other people's perception of this situation by the knowledge that I present to them. But ultimately, people's decisions to interpret your worth or your value or their ultimate decision is actually up to them and not up to you. So really take this and marinate with this. It's kind of it's a slow process, but once you start to really like breathe down through really big situations, you actually realize that you have less control than you think. And the control that you have comes often from internal stuff, mindset stuff that's really, really important at the core of the stability that you bring. And it helps you to influence people in the way that you want them to act. But ultimately, people's decisions outside of your own are theirs. Thank you guys so much for this bonus Spheres of Influence.